For CALLERLAB's 20th Annual Convention. This is tape number 27, After Party Organization.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the session on how to plan after parties. This microphone sounds a little scratchy, doesn't it? Huh? Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Is that any better? Probably not. Yeah, I did. Maybe I shouldn't have. He asked me if I shaved this morning or not. Maybe that's not the problem. Okay, we are on tape, and therefore we need to be sure that any questions from the audience go through the system. So they will be on tape, which means that I will either have to repeat a question that you pose to us from the audience when we get to that point in the program, or we'll have you come up and use a microphone. That would be preferable if you'd come up and use a microphone when you do have a question. I'd like to introduce the panel here today. To my far left, been calling for 22 years. He's from Galena, Illinois. He's the owner-producer of Chicago Country Records, member of the Board of Governors, and also on the Public Relations Committee. How about a nice hand for Jack Berg? Closer to me on my left, they're from Jennings, Louisiana, been married 38 years. Lem started calling in 1960, calls for 3 area clubs, on staff at the English Mountain in Tennessee, has been, was staff member at Sunvale. I'm sorry, you are now on staff, is that right, at English Mountain, Tennessee? You were previously a staff member at Fun Valley, Colorado for 25 years. How about a nice hand for Lem and Sue Gravelle? I'm Ray Aubut from Drake, Massachusetts, that is, and I'm happy to be with you here today. I've been calling about 23 years, and this is my wife Carole on my right. Please give her a big hand. After parties. There are different kinds of after parties, many different kinds. We were introduced to after parties in 1967. That was our first year of club dancing, when it was tradition in our club that a member would invite the caller of that night's dance and a number of club members back to their home for an after party. Certain people at these parties became known for their special way of telling a few jokes or funny stories. Some would offer to do short skits, and others would run games that anyone could participate in if they wanted to. I remember mostly the games that the audience had to figure out themselves and then participate in to demonstrate to everyone that they had caught on. I'm sure you've all played some of those kind of games. Some of these games were tough to catch on to, and you were quite proud of yourself when you did. The person running the game, using good judgment, would go on to another game before the people who had not caught on became too frustrated. These were simple games where a little imagination and being very observant could get you the answer. Sometimes it was just a matter of a sleight of hand or a clearing of the throat preceding a sentence that you were supposed to duplicate. These after parties added tremendously to the sociability of a square dance club and added a whole new dimension to the fun of square dancing. They allowed people to become better acquainted, and in the warmness of a new or old friend's home, it showed the people you invited that you considered them friends, even beyond the square dance. After all, what friendlier gesture can you make than inviting someone to your home? When Carole and I started having our own after parties, besides inviting the people who we had become closest to, we would invite a few couples that we had not seen at other after parties, and in fact, they were people we didn't know very well at all. You would have thought we gave them $1 million. They were so excited about being invited to someone's home. They obviously led sheltered lives and were not the party animals that we had become at that point. Some of these people have since become party animals themselves. Some of the games I remember from those parties were black magic. Some of these may ring a bell to you. Chinese numbers, My Aunt Mame, Going to Hawaii, Mind Reading, The Scissors Game, and The Moon is Round. How many of those did you hear that sounded familiar? Oh, not all that many, huh? Maybe we play different games in New England. We still use these games 25 years later. They are still just as mystifying to the newer dancers because they are new to them. They will never become old. In my opinion, when a caller is invited to an after party, he or she has an ideal opportunity to join in with some games or skits of his or her own. I believe, however, that it is most important to always keep it clean, free of vulgarity, and with no chance of offending anyone in any way. Always keep in mind that some people are extremely sensitive in their feelings and didn't come to the party to be offended. When I found myself calling and then on staff at Square Dance weekends, we wanted to entertain the dancers after the Friday night and Saturday night dances, and at that point, my wife Carole decided to take on that responsibility and has been running the after parties at our weekends for 16 years. I'm going to have Carole tell you how she puts together an after party at a weekend.
Getting involved in doing after parties at our weekend just happened because I was the one who had the free time to get things organized. At first, I did a few little games that I had seen or heard about from others. As the years went on, I soon realized that some of the same people were back over and over and over again, so different games would have to be used. Research would be needed on my part to give our guests a good evening. I picked up all the books I could find on after parties at conventions or at square dance shops. I even went to the library to search out books on children's games so that I could adapt them to fit some of the things that I could use. There were many books to choose from, and my imagination had to take over. I also checked out jokes, songs, and records to see what would come to mind that I could use. Some worked and some did not. I am a saver, so everything I found that was a possibility I would put in my after-party file. I now have boxes of all kinds of games, skits, puzzles, tapes, and records that I go through before I go on a weekend. I am able to repeat some of the games every 4 to 5 years as people change, and even if they don't, the people who have seen the games like to sit back and watch the new folks have their day in the sun. I try to meet the new people and get to see them on the arrival by giving them out a puzzle and answering questions about it, sometimes getting to know them a little bit better at that point. Some have funny questions to ask, and I know that they would work out in a skit or a game. I always have a list of people attending the weekend and make notes about the ones I do not know. I also ask the other members of the staff about the people and if they would be willing to help out in a skit if needed. I find the most fun for the people who are at the weekend is to see their caller acting out of character. They love it. And sometimes that will make the weekend. I do not mean being off-color or rude. I mean just by having fun, if it's not his or her nature to do so. One of the funniest times that I remember was we had a round dance cure on our weekend, and I asked him to help out in a skit about 2 months before the weekend was to take place. He never did get involved in skits and said yes, reluctantly. He started to think about the skit and called me with an idea. I said, fine. About a week later, he called me to let me know he had added a new twist to his part and wanted an okay. A few weeks later, he called me to tell me that he's changed his costume a bit and wanted to know if it was all right. On the weekend, he did his part in the skit and brought the house down because no one had ever seen him act like this before. That happened about 9 years ago, and people still look back at that weekend as one of our best. You never know what will make a weekend. On another weekend, a saying happened from the stage, became the hit of the day, and it was carried from day to day by everyone there. This year we are doing the best of the skits that have been done for 25 years at this particular weekend that we do. It has been a challenge going back and recreating the funniest skits and games. We have had requests for some, so that helps. I have fun doing after parties. Not everyone does. So you have to find your own level as to what you are going to do to make your weekend a success. One of the things that I do that's successful for me is in giving out the puzzles. I give out the puzzle to everyone, and then before the Sunday dinner, I have everybody come back into the hall a half hour early. I have made notes on all the things that happen in a weekend that nobody seems to notice or can understand how I have found out. A little thing may happen. Over the years now, people come to me and tell me little things, little bits of humor. I write all these things down, and I carry my Christmas pack, as I call it, with me. Little things that are all wrapped up and ready to go, all numbered. I fit these items into the plan of whatever happened. They may be the craziest little things. They're probably prizes that are not over 25 cents. I do a lot of shopping, creative shopping, because I do hand out 30 to 40 of these. I had one woman come to me a few years ago and said, "Carole, do you remember when I attended the first weekend, the first weekend I had ever gone to an after party and a whole square dance weekend?" And I said, "I do not remember." She says, "Well, I came from way up in Maine, and because I was the furthest one to attend the weekend, distance-wise, you gave me a compass so that I could find my way back the following year." She said, "I still have that compass." Now, I'm talking about a little compass that comes in a child's birthday kit that you give out at children's birthday parties, and she still has that compass. So little things, recognition means a lot on a weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Carole has become so involved in doing after parties over the years at our weekends that everyone looks at her, very carefully. They figure that she's watching them every minute of the weekend, and they're afraid they're going to get some kind of an award at dinner Sunday. And, of course, they really love it. But they know that if they do anything out of the way, she's going to spot them, and she must have spies out there, which I think she does. And but she's done so much of this and has become so well known at our weekends for doing these after parties that in New England we have the New England Council of Callers Associations, which is a combination of all of our caller associations in New England, and which is called NECA. And NECA has a specialist list of callers that do all sorts of different things, and they present a program at a caller association, and NECA subsidizes it to the tune of $100. And all of these specialists over the years have always been callers, doing voice technique or choreography, whatever it might be. Carole has the distinction of now being the only specialist at NECA who is a non-caller. She is a specialist in after parties in New England, the only one. Okay, now, Jack, are you ready to go?
Well, she said everything that I wanted to say, so I'm done. That's my fan club. Thank you very much. We had our own after party last night. Of course, with callers, we can't talk about what kind of after party. We went against all the rules that you're supposed to have in an after party. After parties are really for people who are introverts, who deep down want to just let loose. and that's your chance. I'm going to read a couple, for the tape, I'm going to read a couple things. After, in a dictionary, says following in time or place. Party, a person or group talking or taking one side of an organized action or inform or entertain. After parties have been going on since Greek civilization. Unfortunately, I don't think they were called after parties. I think they were called orgies. It was a continuous after party, but it really became known, after parties, in Spain and Italy after an opera. And I could not research why after an opera, other than they would have a party. But it had to be different than the opera. I guess the tension had to be released. Think about this. They had to release tension. It had to be funny. Again, I just happened to catch this. I really wasn't looking for this term. Afterpiece in the dictionary. If some of you picked up my notes, you'll see that it says a short use or comic entertainment planned after a party or after a play. In our case, our dance. And it was always comedy. In the mid-1800s, there are a lot of writings and records on after operas in the West. You know, because they're trying to bring civilization in. They had some humdingers of after parties, including holes in the ceilings with guns. So after parties are very important. To prepare for it, there are several rules. Number one, know your material. I know ad lib is fun to do. And by the way, you didn't shave, did you, Ray? No, or is that my mustache? Anyway, you got to know your material. Even plan ad libs. I know ad libs are funny, but you can plan ad libs. You know, make a mistake on purpose, which seems to be what I do naturally anyway. And keep it tasteful. I think Ray said, watch who you offend. There's a fine line with keeping it tasteful. You know, with all reality, you may think you're not insulting somebody, and the best way to avoid that is to get audience participation. That way you can either insult everybody, or the one person gets lost in there. But I think that's a fine line, but I think you know what I mean by tasteful. Stay away from nationalities, how somebody looks. And, of course, some of my friends know that I sometimes slip away from that one, but that is true. You got to watch that. Ideas. Those are the key things. Keep it tasteful. Know your audience. In other words, who are they? Where are you? If you're in Texas, you may want to do something about cowboys. And then know your material. Acting out jokes is probably the number one thing. If you're looking for material, and everybody knows a joke, everybody has a joke or a favorite joke, a clean one. I'm going to give you an example. First of all, you listen to the joke. You know it's got to be tasteful. It should be short. And actually, you take the punchline of a joke. You don't need the hairy dog syndrome, a long story to get to a punchline. Act out the punchline. And I'm going to give you an example. An example is, first of all, you look at the joke. Two things you look at: props, how many people are involved. That's obviously the two things. The joke I'm going to set up for you, you would need two very large cowboy hats, two cowboys or cowgirls, and I'm sorry, ladies, it has to be cowboys in this joke. And then, of course, somebody, again, either another cowboy hat or a big mustache or a black hat. That's the bad guy. Now, the one guy says, the bad guy says, okay, I have captured you two. You can use accents or whatnot. I'm not going to get deep into this. Okay, I've captured you two guys, and I'm going to execute you. He asks their names. One says, I'm Billy Ray Cyrus. The other one says, I'm Garth Brooks. He says, well, I do not like you guys, and we're going to execute you. But you have one last wish. Looks over to Billy Ray Cyrus. He says, and what's your last wish? He says, I want to sing Achy Breaky Heart. Looks over to Garth Brooks, and he says, and what's your last wish? I want to be shot first. Punchline, acted out. Pantomime. Well, one of the key guys in pantomime that I remembered is the late Gene Trimmer. And he's got a whole book, and I'm sure everybody's got that in their notes, don't they? But I beat you. But anyway, this is a fantastic book and can be gotten at your record dealers. I know right now that Aztec has got them in stock, and I don't know, Palomino may have it. Terrific. Something that nobody has ever done. And the magic end, well, I'm not a magician. Well, you know, I forgot. We talk about preparation. And I didn't even do that, did I? Hold on. Okay. It has all my magic stuff has gone to the wayside. Can I have that, please? Has gone to the wayside along with my baseball and football cards. They're all out in the garbage somewhere, so I don't do that anymore, and I will not do any magic act. What that is simply says Bergamo, the world's greatest. And we have seen people do magic stuff, but nobody, there's another activity you can do, and it's mind reading. I am not a mind reader. Well, if my beautiful assistant would assist me, beautiful assistant, did you? Well, first of all, try to look beautiful. If my beautiful assistant will give me some cards that he passed out in the crowd, I would hope that they're not sealed, but that's okay. You'll all trust me, right? I don't know anybody here. Is that right? Just please do this, all right? It's right. They can't. You can nod. This is being taped, and they will hear the marbles, okay? So you can do that. I'm going to attempt to read these cards, and I want you to, and it's not going to be long, it won't be painful, okay? And we're just going to take at random here. Now, one way to set this up is, do you remember the Johnny Carson, the big hat? And he did this bit, all right? Well, pretend I got one of those, all right? Now, Ray went out there and gave you some cards and some clues. Now, really, I have not seen these. You do believe me? Very good. The high intelligence of callers. All right. Now, I want to read this one. We'll make it quick. And again, you can really elaborate on this, and I will not. But I'm going to amaze you and dazzle you. All right. Now, I asked a code name, and somebody here, Pony. Is there, out loud, please tell me if I'm right. Is there a pony here? And the other thing, vibration I got, is that it's coming from there. Am I right, sir? Ma'am. All right? All right, I got that. Your favorite color? Mauve? Mauve, that's it. Well, spell it right. You got it wrong. You're from Illinois? I'm good. And you put down square dance move. Yellow Rock. That's your favorite move. All right. Ask any question. Oh, no. Okay. Now that was I right on all this thing? Well, we're gonna find out if I am or not here. I was right. I was close. All right. Let's take another one. Now, I'm gonna amaze you. Code name. Shh. Listen, I'm kind of trying to concentrate. Code name. Rufus. Rufus. Do we have a Rufus? Where? I knew that. You're amazed so far, Rufus? Are you amazed that I knew it? Thank you. See, your favorite color, you're green with envious, aren't you? Green is your favorite color. Am I right? Uh-huh. You're doggone right. And you're from, I really can't make that out. Your handwriting is bad. Well, now you blinded my mind, and I can't see what the heck the rest of... Now, wait a minute. Wait. And he loves to dream with me? I love you in my dreams? What? That's a favorite move? Rufus? Ask any question. What? You printed this, didn't you? You printed this, didn't you? You are amazed that I knew this. California. All right. All right. You people are amazed so far? You. All right. Why do people want to do more dancing? Why do people want to do more dancing? Am I close? What did you really say? Yeah, you can't read your writing neither. All right. Let's see if I'm right. All right. What are you laughing at? You're amazed, aren't you? Hey, doggone right. Let me see how close I am. Oh, well, it's bad. Your writing is really bad. All right. Can we do one more? Can we do one more? Please. You're kidding. Right. This guy's code name I can't say. The guy who started out with John, raise your hand. John, where are you? Well, all right, but this guy here put down John F. I ain't going any further, John. Am I right? Who did this? Please, don't be ashamed. Am I right? Am I right? Is there a John F. in here? Is there? Oh, come on. Your favorite color is light brown? The state of... I want to let you see this card when I'm done, because I ain't saying any of this stuff. And follow your neighbor and spread, he says. Am I right? Who is it? Am I amazing you? And you're a very large fella. Am I right? No, wait. And the vibrations are coming from over here. Am I right? And the last thing is, would I like to go out with him tonight? Love, John. Yes. Now, I'm going to finish this up, okay? Now, let's see if I was right. Was I right? Wasn't I right? Oh, you're doggone right. Am I going to... one more. Oh, this person is... I got a Russ. Is there a Russ here? Where are you, Russ? Are you amazed? Well, Russ, I'll go on to the, see if I was right or not. You're speechless. All right. Let's end it here. It could go on and on and on. First of all, did you know that I really did read those through the cards? You're doubting me, are you not? Okay. I was right on every question. Okay. And I got it from here. How did I do it? Preparation. Set up. A shill. A plant. It only takes one for me to do that. And of course, that was the first lady who is also a good friend of mine. Her name is Pony. It's Audrey. And she was my plant. She was instructed to say yes to everything that I did. When I did that, I opened up the cards to see if I was right. I opened up the card. I opened up the first one I was going to really read. And I read it. Rufus. Okay? And then every time I opened up one to say that I was right, there it is, I was really opening up the next one. I was preparing for the next one. And of course, the funny fella, I really couldn't read what he said. And if you'd like to see this card, this is a perfect example of not doing this kind of thing. Also a good friend of mine, and but anyway, that's preparation. That's mind reading. Okay? Thank you. It was my pleasure. We'll end this real quick. We're going to go down, and let's have a nice hand for my beautiful assistant. Now, I don't know if this is credited to Mr. Jerry Helt or Johnny Wyckoff. I can't tell the two apart. They both look alike. But something was done called Sit Down, Ho Down, which I think is the funniest thing I have ever seen. Anybody ever see that? It was done a couple of years ago. simply involves the whole audience. Involving the crowd, not just having them laugh at you, is really number one in my book. Sit down, hold down is very simple. You put a hold down on, tell everybody they don't have to do anything. And as the music's going and you're a caller, you don't have to be a caller, by the way, to do this. You can say, okay, bow to your partners, and of course they don't know which way to go, number one. Then you can tell them you jump up and down. Move your right elbow, your cheek to the right, your tongue to the left. Close one eye, and you can just keep going with that. And it's quite hilarious. And Mr. Hell, are you really sitting that low? Oh. But I do want to give credit where credit is due. Is it you or Johnny? Yes, you did. And it was quite hilarious. Thank you. Sing-alongs. I won't go into that. That sometimes is funny. If you can find a funny song, which I could not, so I will let that one go. Simon Says with a Catch. I did this a couple of times, and I'm telling you, this is fun. What you do is you can pick out a crowd, and what you need to prepare for this is what I like is I have an Army helmet, World War II Army helmet, World War I Army helmet, and a a white helmet, another kind of helmet. And I got a cowboy hat. Then I got a babushka. I might date myself. Some of you people are going, what's a babushka? Well, I'm married to a Polish lady, and they wear babushkas. And I'm not making fun. Don't start saying, well, I'm doing what I'm not supposed to. Anyway, an equal amount of man's hats and women's hats. And you give them to these people. And you do Simon Says. Simon says, put the Army helmets on. Bing. It hurts if they don't do it right. Simon Says, take the Army helmets off. Put them back on. No, you're out. And you can just keep doing that. Simon Says, trade hats. Simon Says, now you put the other hat on. So you can see them switching hats, putting hats on, not doing hats, taking them out. When somebody goes out, they have to have two hats. If you say do a woman's hat, and he's got one woman, one man's hat, you can see how he's going to make mistakes. So that's Simon Says with a little catch. Okay? You can do that. Eyewitness is always a good thing to do. That gets you get a group of people involved, and what you do there is you give them a card that simply says there was an accident in 4th and Main, a red car, 2 people in the car, and you can go down and you give it to everybody to read real quickly. And you have a flip chart, and you have each person come out. And you can have 6 people, okay? And behind, you don't let these 6 people see it, because they read that card once, didn't they? 6 items is enough. 4th and Main, red car, 2 people in the car, whatever you would describe the accident to be. You put it on a flip chart, and then each person comes out and describes to you the accident. You will be amazed how wrong they are. 4th and Main could turn into 5th and whatever, see? But that's something you can do. Draw and explain, that's only a takeoff on drawing, and having somebody describe what you're trying to draw. That can be. I put stand-up comedy on here because I seen a gentleman one time who never did comedy, and he did stand-up comedy by simply reading the personals from a paper. It turned out to be stand-up comedy because he probably did more laughing than anybody else when he tried to read it. And you'll find that that's pretty good. Ending this, Ray, we're coming down to the end now. You're not getting nervous on me, are you? I did make you famous, though, didn't I, with that beautiful assistant? Thank you. What can you do? Well, I brought some stuff up here that you can look at. Most of them I marked down here. Of course, Gene Trimmer's Plan After Party Fun. Joke books, usually found in most magic stores. Interesting. Magicians call their verbiage that they do at magic patter. Right down a caller's alley, isn't it? We do patter, too. You'll find a lot of that patter could help you in other things that you do. So look for that. There's something out there called 1001 Punchlines by someone named Merle Gates. He doesn't do any jokes. They're simply punchlines. I could not find my issue, but it's on there. Skit Bruiser LaRue that I rewrote from some other comedy. I didn't have copies of it. If you do want a copy of it, it will be at CALLERLAB by the time I get back. I forgot to send it to him. And, of course, a great one that, again, Jerry Helt was here, but it was done by, from Chaparral. Oh, yes, thank you. Punch Drunk Fighter. That's a good one. I think they do have. Where's records? Where's the dress? This record right here is on Chicago Country. I didn't see Eagle doing any of these. Or Chaparral. You guys are just too high class. But if you look at the picture, you'll see Bob Pointer and what he really looks like in a dress right on the front. Inside this record is a skit to go along with the record. It's really very simple about dressing in somebody else's clothes. It's really very simple to do and fun. Again, Palomino, and I'm sure Aztec, Palomino has records. There's one called, it's an older one, and I'm sorry I didn't take it down. It's called something Caller, Hot Rod Caller, that you can pantomime to it. It's in the old days of calling. Jerry, you know that. The old days, okay? There are party records. Dear John, Old Buster's the one I'm trying to think of. Thank you. It's not even your turn yet.
Well, you won't shut up.
In case those on the tape that want to know what was said, she said I was wonderful. Anyway, the rest of the list is right here. Tricks and gimmicks. Please, self-working mental magic, which was the one that I did, the mind-reading act. One last thing before I end it. I am going to end it. No, don't be sorry. He should be, not you. Is that ventriloquism. They say, well, I don't do any of that. Try this little act. All you need is a wire clothes hanger, hang a shirt on it, a pair of pants hanging on it, and a hat, and put your hand in there. And let your lips and pantomime to anything and just move it around, any kind of clothes. It's a very funny skit. You don't really have to be a ventriloquist. Anyway, there's a gimmick book here. If you're more than welcome to see what it is. I've listed 99% of them. Now I have to apologize to end. I have to end with an apology. This is the year of the woman. And I took an old quote. Please forgive me. The quote was by W.C. Fields, and it said, to make a few men laugh, dress a man in old woman's clothing and have him fall into a manhole. To make everyone laugh, use a real old woman. Okay, so don't look at me that way. I'm trying to apologize and correct this. So see if this is going to be modern, and if it's any funnier. Take a few men to make a few people laugh. Dress a person in an old person's clothing and have them fall into a person hole. That's not as funny as W.C. Fields. Thank you very much, everybody.
If you would not mind, Jack, I'd like to be sure that everyone understood how you did that mind-reading trick. I'm not sure they all understood. I saw a lot of puzzled faces. Let me explain that he gave me 4 envelopes and asked me if I would pass those envelopes out to 4 different people in the audience, asked them to fill out the little questionnaire form inside and get the envelopes back to me, which I did. He did tell me ahead of time that he was going to need a plant in the audience. And I kind of forgot that, to tell you the truth. And he went ahead and he had me fooled. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying, he's reading through that envelope somehow. I'm looking for a reflective mirror or something. And he was right. Now, do you all understand that this lady who was answering the questions to begin with was the plant? And, of course, she said yes to everything that he asked her because he was asking questions. He was saying the right things. Yes. So that gave him the right then. Remember, we said keep it clean. At that point, he had the right in front of all of us to open the first envelope because all of us thought that information was in the envelope that he was holding up to his head, right? Wrong. So he opened the first envelope. Now he has somebody to really talk about who filled out the form, and that's the person that he made you think was the second person. That was the first envelope, and that was about the person. So that was good planning, and he had me fooled. I don't know about you. Did he have you fooled? Were you impressed? I was impressed, to say the least. I was suspicious, and I had been had for a while. Okay. Lem and Sue. I will give them a nice big hand, and they're going to take over next at the microphone here.
Well, I'll start. First, I want to apologize to Jack. But Ray says party. We say party in Louisiana. Then when y'all go to McDonald's, y'all say, y'all want to come in? We say, you want to get down? So I'm the one that did these two lists on the after parties for the skits and the week deals. The first one, it says, go prepared. Have a couple in mind. You see, you got to read like we talk. That have a couple in mind, that I meant to say for y'all, have a couple of skits in mind before you go. Planned, okay? We do an awful lot of skits. We've been in this business for 33 years, and it seems like if we didn't have skits for weekends and after parties, I would not have a job. I find that pantomimes are excellent for weekends and one-night deals where you do not know the people and you don't want to get too much audience participation. Did You Ever is an excellent skit for a husband and a wife to do. She's dressed up as a flapper, and it is very, very good. Another excellent pantomime is Hole in the Bucket. That is really a good one for a weekend or any time. I don't know about you, but we do weekend skits, we do skits for our graduations, and then we do skits for our week institution. For a week institution, a real good deal to get everybody involved is like I have on the paper, is you take, for instance, like if you're at Fun Valley where you have trailers and cabins. You pick the cabin group and the other group, the trailer group. And you pick a group captain from each one of them. And you say, now, on Wednesday night, it's your night. And you will be amazed at the talent you will get from those people. And it is excellent for sealing material for your next week when they're not around. We have a lot of repeats, people that come over and over again. One of my dancers who's been dancing with us for years told me, he said, Sue, if you don't get any new skits, we ain't going back. So I thought, well, maybe we better get some more skits. A real good deal for week deal institutions is on the first night to tell all the couples, okay, ladies, this is going to be your night Thursday night. We want all the gentlemen to make you a corsage. Now, if it's a place where they have flowers, you can pick the flowers. One of them used the little cups of the butter that's on the tables. He called that a buttercup corsage. And you build it up and say, now, you don't want to be the only gentleman here whose wife doesn't have a corsage. And that whole afternoon of Wednesday or whenever you're going to have corsage night, that is excellent because the men are busy trying to make a corsage so they won't be the only one whose wife or mate doesn't have a corsage. Liam forgot about it till just before the dance, and he went out and got his old golf glove that had the holes in the fingers and all that, and he made a little corsage for me. So my list is really, y'all have it, so there's no need of me going over each step. But later on when we have question and answer, if anybody has a question for me, I will be happy. But maybe Liam has something.
Well, first of all, you know, we're from Cajun land, so a good opening for me is something like, you know, man, I got me a little bit of French blood, but you couldn't hardly told it, you know. So, but I have a lot of little Cajun stories that we make into skits. A lot of times we like to use, especially on a week deal, a skit the first night that sometimes becomes the theme for the week. For instance, we at a week where they have a bridge, we have a little skit that involves a joke about a bridge. and you'd be surprised. It's kind of like she mentioned a while ago about it becomes kind of the theme for the week. Everybody will be teasing one another about the ridge the whole week, you know. And jokes, I've heard 4 or 5, like Jack was mentioning. I've heard 4 or 5 little quick jokes that can be turned with a little bit of innovativeness, can be turned into skits. I've heard 3 or 4 these last few days. In fact, any that made the opening orientation session with John Jones, he told 2 about an uncle that you could take those punchlines, as Jack said, and make some real keen skits out of. And it doesn't take a whole lot of innovativeness to turn these lines into some things that can really turn out to be very funny.
Please turn your tape over at this time for the continuation of the program.
That's just kind of the way of life with Cajuns back home. And so we enjoy telling stories on ourselves. And a lot of times we turn these stories around as skits, or just use the story while we're waiting in between a couple of skits. During week institutions, you can involve the people that are there, because everybody enjoys inside. They may resist, but really deep inside they do not mind participating in a skit or an activity. In fact, a lot of times you kind of bring them out of the group by doing this. And a lot of times if you find somebody who really is not that much of an extrovert, that before the week's over they become one, because the first couple of nights you have involved them in one of the skits, and the recognition of knowing they're there and appreciating their participation helps you during that week. Sue is primarily the one that's, kind of like she said a while ago, in charge of the skits. She does a lot of preparation. She writes them all down so that she's got a skit closet at home with all the props and the skits that she's done over the years that she can draw from. She gets a lot of requests sometimes from some of the dancers that have been there several times. Would you repeat this skit or that skit? Now, sometimes we naturally, before we leave, if it's a week deal and it's quite a ways to drive, then she has to go through there and find out which prop she's going to bring. And that, so every once in a while I don't have room for the equipment in the trunk because she's got all this junk in there, see. But anyway, she is really the one that's kind of in charge of the skits, and she involves me in them as they go along. But primarily, that's the way she reaches her. TV, you watch a lot of the variety shows and so forth, you can pick up quick ideas that you can use at after parties for skits and so forth. Yeah, hee-haw and so forth. Right, exactly. You can build on those type ideas. That's really all I've got to say. So, Ray.
Thank you, Sue and Lem. A couple of notes I jotted down listening. We talked about, or someone mentioned about, getting the audience involved in skits. That's a good idea. However, there's always the danger that you can ask someone to come up and he may offer or she may offer to tell a joke or something like that. We've been stung that way. Be careful. Be sure you tell them and insist that they abide by your code of ethics, because sometimes they can make you look bad by getting up and telling a dirty joke, and it becomes part of your program. Excuse me. It is part of your program whether you like it or not, and you had no control over it if you let it happen. I wanted to just say a couple of things, and then I'm going to turn the mic back to Carole for a minute. But for those of you who have been doing weekends right along and maybe not doing after parties at all, not having anything after a dance to entertain your people, that's very common from what I understand. I talk to a lot of callers who say, no, I don't care to do after parties. It's not my thing. There's no one on the staff that really is comfortable doing after parties. Therefore, we do not do after parties. And the people finish the dance at 11 o'clock or whatever, and they go to their room and go to bed. Or maybe they go to someone else's room and have a little party of their own. But we have had callers come to our after party on a weekend who was doing a weekend locally because their weekend was so dull without an after party, they came to our after party. Now think about that, you know. And I know that not everybody is comfortable doing after parties, but I can honestly say, and I'm not saying this because Carole's sitting here and I'm trying to sleep any place but on the couch tonight. I mean this sincerely. Carole is as much an important staff member on our weekend as any of us are. And I mean that sincerely. We have a round dance cure, and there are 2 callers. When the people leave our weekends, so help me God, I don't think they go away talking about how fantastic the calling was. They might talk a little bit about how good the food was, because the food is good at that particular location. What they talk about mostly is the fun they had at the after parties. And that's the truth. So if you think that after parties are not important at your weekends, you're missing the boat. That's my opinion. But the people I have talked to who have gone on weekends for their first time or their 10th time, they do not come back excited unless they had a lot of fun at an after party. Or at least they don't tell us about it. So it's worth doing it. But if you don't feel that you're qualified or comfortable or capable or prepared or whatever, what you need to do, and most weekends I believe have several clubs involved in the weekend, a group of maybe 5 or 10 couples from each club or whatever. Go to someone in that club that you know is outgoing. Ask them if they would organize their little group in their club to do a skit at an after party at this upcoming weekend. Very seldom will they turn you down. But give them a skit. Give them an idea of what they can do, unless they already have some ideas. And they will work on those skits, come to the weekend prepared, sometimes in all kinds of costume and everything else, because they really get into it. You know, they really enjoy preparing for it, and they will come and do these skits at your after party, and your weekend looks fantastic. You really haven't done a lot of work. If it's not your thing to get involved in that way, they will help you out. Get 3 or 4 of these groups to do skits at your after parties. It works like a charm, and all of the other club members who are not part of it enjoy it, and the other clubs kid these people from this club about how good they did and so forth. It adds a lot of camaraderie also, but it will make a weekend to have good after parties. Don't underestimate them. Carole?
If you can also hand out that game that I was telling you about, pick a puzzle. I have a book here. Come up and look at these books, by the way, afterward. I have a mammoth book of puzzles and games. If you take a puzzle, make copies of it, keep the answers to yourself, and give them a puzzle that's hard enough that they have to really think. Well, some of them just put down any old answer. Some of them really try. And they have a lot of fun with it. You can see them comparing notes with everybody in the room. Did you get this one? Did you get 15? I couldn't get this. I have some of those on hand at all times. Little book here that I use, Kids' Rainy Day Games. That's fun. You can adapt any of those. This one here is one that you get in a drugstore. It's called Mad Libs, the world's greatest party games. And all they are is fill in the blank. Pick out the one that you think will be fun for that weekend and have teams. There's one there that's just the song Happy Birthday. But they don't know what it is. You give them a piece of paper with how many verbs and adverbs and names that they have to put in. You have probably put the girls on one side, the fellows on the other side, mix them up, one club against the other club. You give them the instructions, and then give them the paper filled in, and they have to sing Happy Birthday the way they filled in the blanks. It is a very funny skit. Doesn't take too long, doesn't take any preparation. You can do it at the drop of a hat. that I passed out a sheet of games. For the tape, I'll go through a few of them. Quarter on the nose. I have done this one just anywhere, impromptu. Have two men lay on the floor, put a quarter on their nose, and watch who can get the quarter off. They can't. Without wiggling, without using their hands, just laying flat, hands at the side, wiggling their nose. It can't be done. The dress-up race. Boxes of women's clothes, jewelry, whatever you can think of. It's easy. Gloves, hats. Put the box on one chair. They have to put the clothes on. They have to walk across the room with their umbrella up, take the clothes off, put it in the box, and walk back, and the next one has to do the same thing. Have a relay. Very funny. They have those things on any way they can get them on, in any shape, way, and form. The kids' game, pin the tail on the donkey. That is a real fun one, too. What I do is I have the ladies go out of the room. I have a couple come in, one couple at a time, husband and wife or partner, as long as they know each other. They have to know each other well. It's usually husband and wife in our case. And I put a blindfold on the lady. She has their husband will be 5 or 6 feet in front. All she has to do is take her little tail that's got tape on it and pin it on her husband, which she does. And whoever gets the best position gets the prize. By the time she walks over to the spot to take her blindfold off, one of the callers on the weekend is bent over in the same position, the same spot, with the tail right where she put it. And she takes off that blindfold and goes, "Oh, my goodness, I thought it was my husband." And she gets really excited when she says, "Oh, my gosh, what did I do?" And all the time it was her husband. When you tell her that, she goes, "Oh, thank goodness." The whistle contest, crackers. Just give them all 5 or 6 pick-out teams. Everyone on the team have teams of 3 men or 3 ladies, and each one has 5 crackers. When they get to their spot on the floor, they have to chew their crackers. So there's 2 teams working against each other. Now they have to whistle anything you pick out. Racetown, anything, you know. It's just have them whistle happy birthday. They can't do it. They get so frustrated with themselves, they don't know what to do. And then there are a couple of stories in one of the books here that I have them read, just a funny story, and it's a tongue twister. And very rarely can you get anyone to really go through with a funny story. I have given you a list of all the reference books that I have used, and I hope it will be helpful to you. And I hope some of our things, and come up and do look through the books. As I say, I have boxes of after-party things, and sometimes if you do need something, write to me, and I'll see what I can do to help you.
Okay, Lem?
I get maybe many of you have used this before, but a variation of Carole's pin the tail on the donkey is to have the game with the donkey up there on the wall, but conveniently forget the little tails they pinned. So you ask the lady just to use her finger and go to the donkey and put the finger where she thinks the tail ought to be. And as she's blindfolded and walking forward, then stand there with a small jar of peanut butter. And as she's, is right. That's exactly what comes out. Oh! Amazing how funny that is, you know. Yeah, we talked a little bit about keeping it clean, and that's very important. But also, we also know that a little bit of risque can be very funny. And so you need to weigh that very carefully, but that does. In fact, when Ray introduced himself and he said, "I'm from Mass," reminded me quickly of the skit of the lady late for church running up the stairs. And she meets the guy coming down, and she said, "Oh," she says, "Mass out?" And he said, "No, but your hat's on crooked."
I forgot to explain one of the things on the outline that I gave. It's called "Finish the Story," and I wanted to finish the fairy tale, and we had fun at this at a very small gathering. And what it is that you start a story, And if you have a microphone, or if it's a big crowd, you use a mic, of course, in an after party. But you start the story, and your line must never be completed. For instance, I'd say, and I have my mate over here to see if he can catch on. And if I said, once upon a time, yeah, but you've completed it. 3 little bears. Okay, 3 little bears who went, I would come right back. Market to buy. So far it's been very calm. But that's the start of the unfinished story. You keep going around and around. You never finish the line. You got to leave it for the next person to pick up. That is the unfinished or the untold story I think I had in the outline. So if you wonder what that was. And just one other item. Don't be afraid to use magic or card tricks, because they are what they call, if you see anything that says self-forcing or self-working, that means you cannot make a mistake if you follow the rules.
There is a funny record out there called The Irish Belly Dancer by Tip O'Neill. It's on a green label, and if you find the record and do a pantomime to it, which is one that I am asked to do. I did this once when I lost my head. I pantomimed this record. It has been requested over and over, and I think this year for our 25th Best of Skits, I have to dig it out again. All I do is I have a lot of curtains, just curtains. I wrap them all around and come out and do the Irish Belly Dancer and let the record go. It's a fun one.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know the name of it. I'm sorry. We don't have the record with us. Does anyone know what label that is on? Anyone familiar with the Irish Belly Dancer? Okay. I believe so. If you want to write to us, we'd be happy to send you the label and so forth. What I believe the question is who the artist of that record is. Tip O'Neill, I think, or is it Tip O'Neill, or it's a local? No, not House Speaker. No, it's not Tip O'Neill. It's another O'Neill. It's another from Boston. From Boston. Yeah. Write us a postcard, and we'll be happy to send you that information if you're interested. You have to have someone with enough nerve, to waltz around to that thing. But it's good music for almost like a stripper type thing, and it's very funny.
Before everybody leaves, it's almost time, I think. Not quite yet. Could I have Pony come up, please? And the people that were involved in the skit with the memory, could they come up? The ones that were involved. Well, I'll let you give. All right. Okay. Well, if you come up, please, I have a little something for you to remind you of your day of helping us out at our after parties. And I'll turn this over to Ray while you're all coming up. First of all, let me give something to the members of the panel, just to help them remember their day here. Thank you. This has a little saying on the back that you can see, and thank you for helping us in our skits. That's what I mean about a little recognition and people not knowing. I also have one more. Would the old girl come up, please? We had a big O when we heard peanut butter. A little something for you, too. Thank you.
The old girl. Okay, we're going to open it up to questions, and we welcome you to ask any questions that you'd like to ask. Nothing personal, I hope. But would you please come forward and use the microphone for us so it'll be on the tape? Oh, come on.
Art Balak from Buffalo, New York. I want to know if the peanut butter was chunky or...
Never mind.
They mentioned skits or whatever called A Hole in the Bucket and The other one, I have no idea what they are. Would you explain?
Karen Nova.
Would you mind explaining it?
You know, Did You Ever is a song. They're both songs. I don't know our on records, and if anybody would like a copy of either one of the tapes, if they would just let me know, I would be glad to send you a tape because they're both so old. I would just have to run you a copy and put it in the mail. They are darling, darling pantomimes. Both of them take A Lady and a Man.
The Hole in the Bucket is the old song, you know, where
Dear Liza.
that's right, Dear Liza, you know. Dear Liza, you know, and go fetch the water, and there's a hole in the bucket, and you know, fix the hole and put a straw in it, and it goes on. Finally, it winds itself back around to where he needs to get some water, and she says, well, go get the water to wet the stone, and he says, but there's a hole in the bucket, you know, and Dear Liza is really the name of it. But we have a copy of it if anybody'd like it.
Audrey Hildebrand, Illinois. This isn't necessarily a question, it's an addition. Your peanut butter jar, Cool Whip works really nice.
How come the one that was the most questionable is getting most of the attention? Any other questions from the audience? I'm going to ask you some of the games that I mentioned in my opening comments that we used to do and still do at after parties. I'm going to ask you, maybe you'd like to know about a couple of them. For instance, the one of them, going to Hawaii. Do you know what that game is all about? So simple, and it can drive people crazy until they finally catch on to it. What you do is you say to the group, I'm going to Hawaii. Would you like to come with me? Sure. Okay. Well, in order for you to come with me, there are certain things that you have to bring on the trip with you. Okay? And if you tell me what you're going to bring, I'll tell you if you can go with me or not. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you, first of all, what I'm going to bring. I'm going to bring radishes and antelopes. And that's okay. See, I can go on the trip because that's what I'm going to bring, and that's acceptable. Would any of you like to tell us, I saw a couple of heads going up and down, people who know this game. Would you like to tell us what you're going to bring that would allow you to go to Hawaii with me? You want to come up and do that?
My name is Karen Novak, and I'm going to bring my kite and some noodles.
She's going to bring kites and noodles, and that's okay. She can go. Okay? Does that sound okay to you, folks? She can go. Yeah, right.
I'm going to bring crackers and cheese. Can I go?
Crackers and cheese. No, you can't go. Sorry, you can't go. No, she can't go. That's all there is to it. All right, without taking a lot of time, do you know the answer to it? How many of you figured it out? Raise your hands. Not all that many. See, it can drive you crazy. It's your initials. You have to come up with something that is the same as your first initial and your last initial. I said radishes and antelopes. Ray Aubut. Okay? So you have to come up with something that's all it has to do is the first word of the item has to be the same as your initial. And it's just one of those crazy things that people have a lot of fun with. And when you tell people they can't go to Hawaii because they didn't come up with the right combination, they go crazy. And they'll come back to you 3 or 4 times with all these different things, and they can't understand. Well, in fact, they will duplicate what someone else said, and they'll say, well, how come she can go, and she's bringing crackers and cheese, and I can't go, and I'm going to bring crackers and cheese. And, of course, their initials are different. Other things that, the scissors game. Ever played the scissors game? For those of you who haven't, you're all sitting around in a room, in a circle or whatever, and you have a pair of scissors. And you're sitting, and you pass the scissors, either open or closed, from one to the other. And you say, as you're passing the scissors to the person next to you, I am passing these scissors to you open. Now, the scissors can be closed. and they accept them. The reason they accept them is because your legs are open. Okay? If you cross your legs, okay, you can then pass them closed, even if they're open. In other words, how the scissors are open or closed has nothing to do with it. It's whether you have your legs crossed or not. Okay? So you have to be very observing, and there again, somebody's there, you know, and they're trying to pass these scissors, and this person will not accept them because they're trying to say, I'm passing them to you open, when in fact their legs are crossed. And the person won't accept them. They said, no, we won't take them. You know, just little games, but they are fun. You know, they're a lot of fun. They don't take a lot of preparation, but the people have a lot of fun doing it, whether it's in your home or whether it's a weekend after party of a little group. Another quick one, Chinese numbers. Do you know that one? Get down on the floor. Get a group of people down on the floor, and the person running the game has a whole bunch of toothpicks, let's say, or matchsticks, either one, or pencils, a whole bunch of them. And they will arrange these sticks in a certain order, make little squares and lines and all sorts of things, and they'll say, okay, now what is that number? And when they ask the question, as soon as they set these little toothpicks up, they put their two hands on the floor. And the number of fingers that are actually on the floor is the number. And the people will say, oh, I don't know what that is. It looks like an 11. No. And you go on and on and on. And what is it? It's a 3, because the person playing the game has 3 fingers like this on the floor. No one's looking at the person's fingers. They're looking at all these matches and pencils or whatever they are on the floor, and all this crazy arrangement, and they're saying, I don't know what number that is. Chinese numbers is the name of the game.
You give the whole room the number, but you have one person outside, and when he comes in, he knows where to look to find out what the number, and the people who see the sticks all over the floor have no idea how he knew.
It'll work either way, but that's the whole basis of the game. It's the number of fingers that you're placing on the floor when you put your hands down. No one is looking at your fingers. They're all looking at these crazy numbers, but that's what really tells what the number is the number of fingers you have that you're using on the floor. Okay, we're getting into a time situation here, and are there any other questions or any other games you'd like to suggest to us so we can all learn a new one? Black magic? You want to go to Hawaii, is that it?
But you had to use the same initials, like crackers and cheese, or pineapples and peaches. Anything that started with the P or the same letter is the way we used to do it, and that's why it said crackers and cheese.
Yes. The question is the same idea, but one with a double letter, or any set of double letters, like cabbage. Oh, isn't that another game? There's another game similar to that I remember, but vaguely. Yeah. There's a lot of little games like that. They're all just fun games, but you can keep people amused with those games for 2 hours easily. There's another one that I'm not sure what we call it. I'm going to say mind reading, but what we usually do as props is we have 9 LP records, 9 of them, and we lay them out on the floor 3 by 3. And I have a pointer in my hand, and we send someone out, and they come into the room, and I take my pointer and I say, now, is this, well, first of all, we have everybody who's there choose which of the records it is that is going to be the secret record, okay? And we send somebody out of the room. They come in, and I start pointing, and the first record I point to, I either have to point in the middle of it or one of the 4 corners, right? I make it a point of that, of course. I am telling that person which one is the real one, the one that they have to figure out, by where I place the pointer on that very first record that I point to. If I point to the middle of the record, that means it's the middle record. Okay? Think about it. If I point to the far right top corner, then that's the one it is. And when I finally point to it, the person will say yes, because they watched me the first time I pointed, and that told them which record it is. The people in the audience will go crazy trying to figure out how come this person is so smart that went out of the room, didn't know which one it was going to be, but when I finally pointed to it, they knew that was the one. I told them by pointing to that part of the record that I first pointed to. You understand what I'm saying? It's a good one. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And some of these games, some people leave these parties very frustrated. I'm not even sure it's fair to them. They leave so frustrated. And yet, at most of these after parties, no one is told unless they catch on. Of course, they pressure some of their friends. Carole is going to demonstrate one, and then I think we're going to have to call it a day. It's called...
Who does not know the game My Aunt Mame? Fellow in the corner. Come up here. We'll have to give you your name, and we'll try it, and Ray will describe it as we're doing it for the tape. Your name?
Jim Benbow.
All you have to do is do everything I do. Ray will describe it. Okay? My Aunt Mame.
No, she didn't. Let Carole do it again. Okay, what didn't he do that she did? It has nothing to do, that's the funny part of it, okay? This is what everyone thinks. I didn't say it right or whatever. You know, my arm motion wasn't quite right, so they try it over and over again with all different motions. The only thing that he didn't do that she did was she folded her hands at the very end. That's the only thing that he didn't do that she did. Little crazy games. But they're fun, and they make people laugh. And that's what after parties are all about. Jack had something he'd like to add.
Yeah, just real quick. If you're in a hotel or you're having a big after party, a phone will be needed, and a person who is in on it, again, another shill. And it's called Mr. Magic, and you can only do it once or twice and never do it again. The idea behind this is to drive people nuts. Now, it's the opposite of what Ray just said. They get frustrated. The idea of most magic or things that they can't guess is to do it once or twice, don't let them figure it out, and never do it again. And Mr. Magic is very easy. You put out a bunch of cards. You don't have to be a magic. How many know this? Yeah, okay. You may be Mr. Magic someday for me. Long distance. You lay the cards out. You can tell anybody, just pick out a card. And, you know, there it is. And they pick out the ace of spades. We'll make it simple. And say, now, this is telephone magic, and this guy's going to tell you his card. You know, you pick the phone up, and you dial the room number, or somebody close to town, whatever the way you can do it, and simply says, is Mr. Magic there? And he says, spades. And you say, Mr. Magic. You stopped him at spades, so he knows it's spades, and then you come back with another line, and he says, ace, and he'll say, Mr. Magic, please tell this man his card or this woman his card. He knows it's the ace of spades. You give it to the person on the other end says, ace of spades, and hangs up. It drives them nuts, but only do it twice. Only do it twice, because they'll catch on. Thanks, Ray.